Weight of the World is the newest album from rapper and Houston, Texas native Maxo Kream, and it is, I believe, the second album under a major label following his previous album, Brandon Banks. I am somewhat familiar with Maxo Kream's catalog. I'm not too familiar, but I did like the teaser leading up to this album, Big Persona, which featured Tyler, the Creator. I thought that was a pretty good song, and so I was somewhat anticipating this release. And this album has 16 songs in the track listing, which in most cases would lead to a kind of long album, but in this case, not at all. All the songs are either 2 or 3 minutes long. The album in its length is, I believe, 44 minutes or 44 and a half minutes, so it runs by fairly quickly. And I don't really have much else to say. I'm just going to kind of go into the tracks like I always do. I'm going to start from the beginning, from the first track. It starts with the song Cribstian, I think that's how you say it, which is an interesting title right off the bat. You could definitely have some interpretations with that. I think this track does have some pretty good samples, particularly in the beginning and in the end. They are soul-inspired, R&B-inspired samples. They do also kind of change throughout the song, which is an interesting choice. And lyrically speaking, there isn't really much to dive into or interpret. He seems to be talking a little bit about his brother, who has supposedly passed away as of now. He says, if I can't get in heaven, can I at least visit my brother? So I can tell him about my niece, how much I love him, kiss him, and hug him. And it is a nice sentiment. I can appreciate that, how he's reflecting on the loss of his brother. However, Maxo himself is just kind of boring throughout this song. His flow isn't bad, it's just pretty monotonous. It's very one notes and not really anything all that interesting about his delivery of these lyrics. 11:59 is another one that has some good use of samples. At the very beginning, sounds a lot like something off of the Little Sims record, Sometimes I Might Be an Introvert, which came out in like September, I think. However, the main instrumental of this song is very trap influenced, and I just really don't think that fits well at all with the, again, like I said, these soul inspired samples that are in this album. And that actually happens several times in this album. And to me, it just really doesn't work. It's kind of jarring. Having those two contrasting styles mixing together, I don't think it works very well. I think that They Say gets off to a pretty solid start. I like in the lyrics how he's referencing other rappers such as Nipsey Hussle, rest in peace, also Lil Yachty, Lil Uzi Vert. There's also a pretty good beat switch in the song, like pretty much right at the halfway points, which I thought was effectively done, but then once the second half of the track starts, it kind of starts to lose me a bit. He kind of just starts to talk about himself and how he's been accused of certain things, but he really isn't that person. He's this kind of person, and he's done all this stuff and this and this. Kind of starts bracking a little bit, starts feeling himself, which I'm not necessarily saying is bad, but just really doesn't fit with the first half of the song. And I think really this song would have benefited if it was just cut into two. And a Big Persona with Tyler, the Creator, like I said, I do like this song. I mean, I can see why some people might not like it, think it's kind of dumb. Personally though, I like it, and it might just be because of how much I love Tyler, the Creator. It probably is, honestly, I'm probably biased, but you know, I don't care. I really like it. I like the horns at the beginning. I think that the chorus is catchy as hell. There's definitely a lot of like that bro energy for sure, which honestly I can totally see why people wouldn't like it, because that kind of vibe can be pretty cringy from time to time. But here, I think it works pretty well. And this is followed by another track called CC featuring Monoleo, which I also really like. And I actually think that Maxo has some pretty good flow here. It's much more quick and very quickly spoken lines, a little bit like Eminem in a way. He also does this kind of call and response thing, which I think is pretty funny actually. I think that Monoleo's feature was just fine. You know, she did a fine job accompanying Maxo. Wasn't too over the top, wasn't trying to overshadow him. Just served the song well. But then Streets Alone featuring A$AP Rocky, I think this is a pretty, I think it's a pretty boring one. Really not a fan of the rhyming in this one, especially from A$AP. His first verse, he says, throughout my set, they get upset, they coming at me indirect, they sending threats, I'm busting out, live in effect, no internets. I don't really know what he's trying to say here. And yeah, the instrumental is just kind of boring to me. It uses that same sample that a bunch of rap songs use. I don't get why. If I can find that song or the song has this song, I'll play a clip right here. Yeah, just a bunch of rap songs lately have been using that. I don't really get the appeal of it. It's kind of annoying how often it is sampled, but whatever. I guess I just gotta get used to it maybe. Don't Play With Shoddy Ass. I don't really have a lot to say about this. It was kind of just another boring one for me. The outro was kind of confusing. I don't really get what he was trying to go with there. He's talking really fast, as if it's some kind of like important like political or social message he's trying to get across. Some like real message, some real shit, However, I do like the next song, Loco Joker. I think it has one of the best instrumentals on the whole album. I love the bass line. I think it's really accompanies him very well, his flow in this song. Particularly when all of the other parts of the instrumental drop out and it's just the bass being played. Like that's the chef's kiss right there. I think some of the lyrics in this one are pretty good as well. I like the line he says, "Try to show them if I did it, they could probably do it bigger." That's a nice sentiment, I think, saying that, you know, if I made it, you can make it too. Sure, it's a little bit simple and generic, like you can do it too. Everyone can do it. You can do it. But I like it. I don't care. I like it. However, the next song, What I'd Look Like, featuring Freddie Gibbs, is another one that's just boring to me. I even wrote it down in my notes. I wrote a bullet point under this song, boring. And I'm very bothered by the sort of harmonization that is happening in the chorus between Maxo and Freddie. When he says the lines, "What I look like, I don't look right, I don't book flights," at the very ends of those lines, those like ites rhyming. It's just this very weird, off-putting, almost inhumane kind of harmonization, kind of like in the chorus of that Lenny Kravitz song, "Fly Away." I'll play a clip right here. Like, it just sounds weird. It doesn't sound natural to me. And then For Real, I assume that's how you're supposed to say it. The title is FR. This was just another one that was kind of meh to me. It is another one that has the call and response utilized here, although here it is not utilized nearly as well or as uniquely as CC does, because this one he's just saying the same word. I was in the trap like Gucci, somewhere back in Gucci. I do sort of like though how the song ends and it transitions and blends right with the next track, Colada, with this sort of distorted guitar being played. I do kind of like what Maxo is talking about on the track Greener Knots. He is sort of just talking about the subject of school and how personally just wasn't for him. Other people, that's the career path they take. They go to school, they get a degree, and then get a job. But for him, that was not his bag, and he had to sort of pave his own path and go his own way to achieving a successful career. I think that's a pretty good subject matter. However, by the time we get to the next song, Mama's Purse, I feel like the subject matter of this album just starts to get a little bit too derivative, because a lot of it is just kind of Maxo, reflecting on his life, on his childhood, reflecting on his past experiences with his family, his friends, his career, his professional career. And it's just a lot of remembering different times in his life, different hardships he had to go through. And by this point in the record, it is just a little bit too derivative for me. I do think that the next track, Trips, is one of the best on the album though. Lyrically, it is kind of just the same type of topic / subject matter, but I like the style that he's presenting these lyrics. He's basically telling us a story about things related to his brother, certain events that occurred over his lifetime, things that happened with him and his brother, some like major events. I do also like the instrumental, particularly how it changes throughout the song. When he gets to parts of the story that are a little bit more intense, the instrumental also kind of amps up, and when he gets to parts that are more subdued and calmer, the instrumental also gets more calmer. It was really cool. I think this song is easily one of the most thoughtfully produced songs on the entire album, no doubt. And I really wish this ended the album, because I think it would have been a very strong finish, but unfortunately we get the song Believe featuring Don Toliver, which is just such a one-note, dull track. I'm really not a fan of the chipmunk vocals that are, I think, being sampled. Don Toliver's part is pretty boring. I don't like the auto-tune on his vocals. And I'm not like 100% anti-auto-tune, I think I should say that. But I just think here it wasn't used very well. But yeah, it was just kind of a bland way to end the album. I wish that it ended with Trips, but oh well. And that was Way of the World. not the worst album I've heard this year. It did have its moments. It did have a few tracks that I did like. I found some of the lyrics to be on point. Some of the instrumentals were nice. Production all around was good for the most part. But it does suffer from, like I said, some very derivative subject matter throughout the record. He doesn't really go much past just reflecting on his life and certain events that he's gone through. And Maxo himself does have moments where he shows charisma and he shows some pretty good personality through his rapping and through his flow. But a lot of the time, like I said, it's a very monotonous flow, and it's just kind of boring. There's not really anything that compelling about him and his performance throughout a lot of this album. So as a whole, the record just kind of falls short for me, and I'm going to give Weight of the World a D+. And if anyone's curious about how my rating system works, here's a little breakdown of it. As always, if you have heard this album by chance, let me know what some of your favorite tracks are in the comments. If I were to pick, say, a top 3, going in order of the album, I would go Big Persona, CC, and Trips as being my favorites. Thank you for watching. If you got to this point in the video, it means a lot, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.